Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Wealth Brief. I'm Charlie, that's David. We're both certified financial planners with Platinum Point Financial. And in today's video, we wanted to discuss the myths, misconceptions, and overall feelings that are out there when meeting with financial advisors. This could be your first meeting. Maybe you've never met with one. You've kind of avoided them, like the dentist. Of course, we don't want to have any comparisons like the dentist's office. So wanted to go through those today and hopefully shed some light on, what a good conversation with a good advisor can look like, and also break down, some of those, again, misconceptions out there, when working with an advisor. So first one we want to bring up is a very common one you see online and you've probably heard, throughout friends, family, whatever it may be, is that, only wealthy people need to work with an advisor. Dave, what are your thoughts on that?
We hear that a lot actually, and it's a fair statement. But it's just not true, right? So most wealthy people do actually have a financial advisor, but they don't wait till they're wealthy to get one. They do it well before they hit that level of wealth they feel comfortable with. And the reason why is that we can provide some insight on tax strategies, on how you should be saving your money in different ways, and just discipline that you're not going to get on your own possibly, or you need someone else to take a look at that for you. Our job is not to look at what you have and judge what you're doing. Our job is to look what you have and to create a strategy that will make you successful and help you achieve your goals. So don't be fearful that if you don't think that you have enough money to meet with a financial advisor, reach out to one, have that conversation, just see if it's a good match or not. They'll tell you, they'll be honest with you. They'll either say, yes, this makes sense, or right now, no is at the right time for you. Work on these three things and let's get back together in a year or so. But they're going to have that initial conversation just to see where you are. You will be surprised, I imagine, that you're doing much better than you think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think one thing to think about there is chances are that that wealthy person that has the advisor, they had to start from somewhere. So they had that blueprint created most likely with some consultation of an advisor who has experience, has the credentials, and that worked them up to that spot, as opposed to knowing everything themselves, never having outside conversations or counsel, and then they get where they are, and then now they want to work with an advisor. So that's something to keep in mind there as well. Another one, it comes down to investing, and it's kind of twofold. So one, we hear this a lot, investing is risky, right? You may have had, growing up, or you may have had a bad experience with investing once or twice before, and therefore that is your experience, and that's what the future is going to look like. So we hear investing is risky, not worth it. And then along with that, when working with an advisor, if you do allow them to manage your investment account, that you lose control of your money when working with an advisor. So, what do you have to say to that, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all had an experience in life where we've done something financially or just otherwise outside the scope of finance that we did something risky and we got burnt for it, right? Doesn't mean you never try it again. Um, I would argue that not investing could actually be riskier than investing because of inflation risk. No matter what you're doing, there is some risk involved. And if you're just saving your money in a savings account, you're going to have your cost of that dollar is going to decrease over time because of inflation. So the key is to meet with a financial advisor who understands your overall risk tolerance because you don't have to be extremely aggressive to do well and to be successful, but you have to at least beat that inflation number, right? So meet with an advisor who can balance what your goals are with how much risk you want to take and construct a portfolio around that. And you clearly explain to you how that works so you feel comfortable as things change. The second piece to your question was, do you lose control in that situation? So the great news is you do not lose control at all, right? When we meet with someone, and as I mentioned before, we're creating that conversation around risk and your financial goals. You, as the investor, it's your money that we're investing. We're just a fiduciary acting on your behalf. So what we're doing is we're going to create what's called an investment policy statement for you, which is you telling us, here's how I want you to invest the money for me. it's not that you're giving it to us to do and you forget about it. It's you're delegating that because you have other things that are important to your life that you need to focus on. Your family, your job, right? Your vacations, whatever the case might be. So what we do is we do the day-to-day delegation to make sure that you're staying within the amount of risk you want to take. We're avoiding the funds that you don't want to invest in. Some people are very, they don't want to invest in certain sectors of the market or the economy. We can avoid that for you. But we create that blueprint with you. We sit down and have a constructive conversation around it. And then we show you on a regular basis how we're investing, how it's working, and how it's affecting your overall financial plan.
Absolutely. Yeah, and one thing I'd add is that when we have those investing conversations, it's not those conversations is just as involved on the client side as it is with us. We're never going to put a client in a situation where, hey, we're going to force you to be in these positions because we like them or because it sounds good. We always want to have in more of an educational and informative conversation around here's why we think it may make sense based on, your emotions with money, based on your goals with this money, your time horizon with this money, and then take it from there so that both sides understand like, okay, this makes the most sense. So definitely makes a lot of sense. Appreciate that, Dave. And
Sure.
uh, another one that comes to mind, and frankly, I see where they're coming from here, is that advisors like to use a lot of technical jargon,
Yeah.
and I know it's out there. I've met with some other advisors, and they do it, I think, frankly, because they're trying to pitch this level of complexity, sometimes to just kind of confuse the other side or make them sound smarter. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I think any industry you're in, if you're in it long enough, you start developing jargon, you start using acronyms that no one else understands, but it makes you sound important, it makes you sound smart. Um, I think it's the opposite. I think the smart people, the good advisors, are the ones who can explain complicated things and make them simple so everyone understands them. And not that you have to make them simple because people don't understand the concepts. It's just why make this harder than it has to be? And quite frankly, what we try to do is we call our meeting strategy sessions because they're education meetings, and we do a lot of whiteboarding where we're explaining different concepts to people and avoiding the jargon. Because at the end of the day, if you can't explain what we're doing to someone else, they're going to be asking you questions about why are you doing that? This makes no sense. And you're going to question, are you working with the right people? And we never want to put anyone in that position. We want you to be very confident about the recommendations we're making, why we're making them, and that you can explain it to anyone in your family or any of your friends that you have. And so that's why we try to make this as simple as possible. We avoid the jargon. Do that with any advisor you talk to. They shouldn't be using complicated terms to you. It's not, there's nothing smart about it, quite frankly. It just makes it more complicated in my eyes.
Yeah, and I feel like a good way to test that is if you can't clearly, regurgitate what strategy you're implementing, why your advisor is implementing this strategy, and why it makes sense, then I think that's somewhat of a red flag, right? You shouldn't be leaving your meetings more confused, leaving it, okay, I guess it sounds good. It should be a very clean process and clear understanding as to the vision kind of going forward there. And lastly, financial planning is obviously widespread these days. Everyone's a financial planner. Everyone provides a financial plan, it seems, these days. And along with that comes this idea that, well, I'm just getting a one size fits all financial plan, this cookie cutter plan. And is that really beneficial for me? So what do you have to say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it when some advisors do have that cookie cutter approach because it's just what they know. They meet with you, they collect your financial statements. They have software that allows them to run a plan that says, here's how much money you'll have left over when you turn a certain age. Here's what you'll have in retirement. You're going to be fine if you invest this way. That's an interesting simulation, but it's not financial planning. Financial planning is when we look at all the areas of your life from a tax standpoint, your employee benefits, your estate plan for risk management. We tie all these things in together for you and say, this is how these all things work for your specific financial goals and your specific goals for your family. And once we create that plan, then we have to meet regularly to discuss it. And we go over and we have quarterly meetings to make sure everything's staying on track. And as things come up and as things change in your life, you should be able to reach out to your advisor and say, hey, this just happened. What do we do now? Or to make you aware, we're doing this now. How will this impact my whole financial plan? And then we're going to start back and create that right plan for you. But there is no such thing as a one size fits all financial plan. And there's no such thing as just looking at two documents and saying, here's how successful you're going to be in life. It's a long process. There's a lot of work involved with it, which we're happy to do. But you should make sure that your advisor is asking these right questions for you and looking at all the different areas to really focus on your whole financial plan.
Yeah, and you brought up another point there is that plan, delivering a financial plan is one thing. We understand that life is going to change, the markets are going to change, taxes are going to change. So planning is only as good as how long that relationship lasts. And if you aren't ever having conversations with your advisor beyond the first year, if you hear from them like once a year and it's a quick market update, I would argue that you don't have a plan. You maybe have a wealth manager and maybe that's okay. But connecting all the dots, we found to be, clients have found that to be much more valuable, understanding the entire picture. So to wrap up here, I think when having those conversations with an advisor, whether it's a first meeting or, the maybe an ongoing relationship you already have with somebody, just think to yourself, do I feel heard? Are my values, my beliefs, my situation with money, being heard with the advisor and going forward, what does that look like? Because, with our discovery meetings, a lot of times that's, it's very driven on the client side. We're asking a lot of questions. We're diving deep into what makes them tick. What's the relationship with money, how they grow up with money. It's not a conversation around, send us a statement and we'll figure out what to do next meeting. So appreciate you guys joining us here today. Feel free to reach out if you want a second opinion. These are very important conversations, of course. So feel free to reach out. We're going to have our link here to our website listed on the video. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Thanks.